very warmly welcome you all to today's Planning and Development Committee meeting for Toowoomba Regional Council. This meeting is open to the public and will be live streamed. I would like to thank those of us in the room today, those in the gallery, those staff, and acknowledge everyone watching via Council's social media channels. Can I remind councillors, please, to click the Join Meeting button in board view, and very important we all do that. Can I open the Planning and Development Committee meeting today and take a moment to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land in which we meet on today, the Western Waka Waka, Guyabal and Jarrawa people, and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging, for they hold the rich traditions and bold ambitions of Australia's First Nations people. Can I acknowledge Carrie, Manager of Planning, in absence of Dr. Nicola today, and welcome her and the other staff members with us. Colleagues, we will move to attendance, including apologies, leave of absence, and declarations of conflict of interest, and there are a few to get through. But as far as attendance, are we waiting on Councillor Carroll, or do we need to note an apology for her?
I haven't heard at this stage. I'd say that she will be here. I haven't heard that she won't be, so
it's running late, so we might.
That's
appropriate to do that. Good. Anyone needing a leave of absence at this time, councillors? Excellent. We'll move through the declarations of conflict of interest. Councillor Bill, before we start.
I'm not sure. Do we ask for a leave of absence committee? I thought it was statutory meeting. General meeting.
I'll have it written to ask people, but I would assume that it's absolutely fine to do it at the ordinary meeting. I'll just seek advice from the CEO. Can leave of absences be done at the ordinary meeting? So Councillor Bill will do that at the ordinary meeting. And good morning, Councillor Carroll. Thank you for your attendance. So colleagues, there are a few declarations of declarable conflict of interest. I'll go in the order that I have them written here. And can I start with Councillor Farquhar, please?
Thank you, Chair. In relation to item number 6, confidential planning and environmental court appeals and compensation claims for May 2024. In relation to matter number 2, I request that it be minuted that I declared a declarable conflict of interest in relation to item number 4, MCUI 2022-3590. At the special meeting of Council of 29 November 2023 and of my decision to leave the meeting while the matter was discussed and voted on. As the relevant circumstances have not changed, I will leave the meeting while the matter is discussed and voted on.
Thank you, Councillor Edwina. I have a conflict of interest from Councillor Von Hoff, please.
Thanks, Chair. I've got 2 here. They both relate to the Planning Committee. We've got item number 6 and item number 7. In relation to item number 6, matter number 1 and item number 7, I request that it be minuted that I declared a declarable conflict of interest in relation to item number 5, confidential planning and environment court appeals and compensation claims January 2024 at the Planning and Development Committee meeting of the 13th of February 2024. And in relation to item 6, matter number 2, I request that it be minuted that I declared a declarable conflict of interest in relation to item number 4, MCUI 2022-3590, development application for a development permit for a material change of use impact, extension to educational establishment located at 46 to 50, 51 and 53 Wirrawirra Street, East Toowoomba, at the special meeting of Council of the 29th of November 2023. And of my decision to leave the meeting while the matters were discussed and voted on. As the relevant circumstances have not changed, I will leave the meeting while the matters are discussed and voted on.
Thank you, Councillor Von Hoff. Can I move to Councillor O'Shea?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I wish to make a declaration of declarable conflict of interest in item number 6, confidential planning and environment court appeals and compensation claims May 2024. Item number 7, confidential update on planning and environment court appeal number 142 of 2024 revised plans Essence Estate. In relation to item 6, number 1 and item 7, I request that it be minuted that I declared a declarable conflict of interest in relation to item number 5, at the Planning and Development Committee meeting of the 13th of February 2024, and of my decision to leave the meeting while the matter was discussed and voted on. As the relevant circumstances have not changed, I will leave the meeting while this matter is discussed and voted on.
Thank you, Councillor O'Shea. I have a statement from Councillor Melissa Taylor, please.
Thank you, Chair. In relation to item 6, matter number 1 and item 7, I request that it be minuted that I declared a declarable conflict of interest in relation to item number 5, confidential planning and environment court appeals and compensation plan claims, January 2024, at the Planning and Development Committee meeting of 13th of February 2024, and of Council's decision to allow me to participate in the decision about the matter, including by voting on the matter. As the relevant circumstances have not changed, I will participate in the decision about the matter, including by voting on the matter.
Thank you, Councillor Melissa. Councillor Carol Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In relation to item 6, matter number 1 and item 7, I request that it be minuted that I declared a declarable conflict of interest in relation to item number 5, confidential planning and environment court appeals and compensation claims, January 2024, at the Planning and Development Committee meeting at the 13th of February 2024, and of Council's decision to allow me to participate in the decision about the matter, including by voting on the matter. As the relevant circumstance has not changed, I will participate in the decision about the matter, including by voting on the matter.
Thank you, Councillor Carroll. May I move to Mayor McDonald for your...
Thanks, Chair. In relation to item 6, matter number 1 and item 7, I request that it be minuted that I declared a declarable conflict of interest in relation to item number 5, confidential planning and environment court appeals and compensation claims, January 2024, at the Planning and Development Committee of the 13th of February 2024, and of my decision to leave the meeting while the matter was discussed and voted on. As the relevant circumstances have not changed, I will leave the meeting while the matter is discussed and voted on.
Thank you, Mayor McDonald, and I move to Councillor Shine, please.
Thanks, Chair. In relation to matter number 2, I request that it be minuted that I declared a declarable conflict of interest in relation to item number MCU I 2022-3590, development application for a development permit for a material change of use impact extension to educational establishment located at 46, 50, 51 and 53 Wirrawirra Street, East Toowoomba, Queensland, 435 at the special meeting of Council on the 29th of November 23, and of Council's decision to allow me to participate in the decision about the matter, including by voting on the matter. As the relevant circumstances have not changed, I will participate in the decision about the matter, including by voting on the matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Shine. Colleagues, I too have two statements in relation to conflict of interest, and in relation to item 6, matter number 1 and item 7, I request that it be minuted that I declared a declarable conflict of interest in relation to item number 5, confidential planning and environment court appeals and compensation claims, January 2024, at the Planning and Development Committee meeting of 13th of February 2012, and in relation to item number 6, matter number 2, I request that it be minuted that I declared a declarable conflict of interest in relation to item number 4, MCUI 2022-3590, development application for a development permit for material change of use impact extension to educational establishment located at 46 to 50, 51 and 53 Wirrawirra Street, East Toowoomba, at the special meeting of Council on 29th November 2023, and of Council's decision on both of these to allow me to participate in the decisions about the matters, including by voting on the matters. Colleagues, as the relevant circumstances have not changed, I will participate in the decision about the matters, including by voting on these matters. So, colleagues, thank you for working with the long list of declarations of conflict of interest with me. Before we move on, are there any other conflicts or anyone that people may be cautious of? Certainly they're well within the opportunity to raise them at the appropriate time. Thank you. So we move to item 3, the Regional Development Statistics Report for April 2024, and I'll invite Carrie Musgrave to the to the lectern, to the stage to introduce the topic. Thank you very much, Carrie.
Thank you, Chair. I'll take the report as being read and would welcome any questions that the Council might have to ask about these statistics.
Thank you, Carrie. Colleagues, the report is in front of you. Are there any questions regarding the statistics? Councillor Mentoff.
Can I just ask a question, as in, what's the timeline of people applying for applications now? And what's the timeline for approvals, as in, if you get my gist of what's happening in 6 months, what's happening in 2 years, what is our projection with figures, as in approvals for lots or subdivisions?
Thank you for the question, and through you, Mr. Chair. Each development application has statutory guidelines that we are required to comply with. In our last reporting for the operational plan, I think we're achieving our statutory guidelines for 87 or it might be 89% of all our development applications. The time frame from beginning to end can vary substantially because there are aspects of a development application that aren't in Council's control. So, for example, if we issue an information request, the applicant may answer that within a couple of days, or it could be a substantially longer period, noting that they can seek an extension of time to answer those questions. It also depends on whether the application has to go through public notification. But generally speaking, a code accessible application could get through Council in a sort of a 4-month to 5-month timeframe, depending on the applicant's response rate. Impact accessible applications take somewhat longer.
Thanks, Councillor Trevor. Are there any other questions, colleagues? Councillor Shine.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Just refer you, please, Carrie, to the item number 9, temporary incentive policy applications. And I note there's quite a few there in relation to encouraging dual occupancy and subdivision voting lots, and in the current housing shortage, that's pleasing to see. But I query the discount of $100,000 for a warehouse, I think, at Charlton, and ask whether or not we are considering the temporary incentive policy being re-examined at a later date.
Thank you, Councillor Shine. Council has a number of incentive policies that are designed to stimulate development in particular areas. Now, the policy to which you're referring to is titled 2.8 Temporary Economic Development Incentives for Non-Residential Development. All of our policies were due to expire to coincide with the end of the last term of Council. However, we are aware that there is a number of funds and incentive programs being put forward by the state, and there's probably some coming from federal as well. So rather than try and redo the policies with insufficient information, we thought we would wait until there was time to know what all the other incentives and policies were from state and federal government, so that we could fill the gaps, so to speak, with the incentives. So with that in mind, all of the incentives were just extended until the end of the year. It is our intention, our economic development branch will be looking at all the incentives and reworking them to bring them back to Council before the end of the year. And as part of that, we will certainly be looking at what needs to be incentivised and what can perhaps be dropped off the list once we have more information.
Thank you for that. Just apologise for not having given you notice of this one, but the last one on the list relates to a community use where there's been a total deferral of charges. Are you familiar with what that application is about? If not, we can find out later.
I'm sorry, off the top of my head, I'm not aware of that, but I can follow that up and provide some information on that one.
Thank you, Councillor Shine. Colleagues, are there any other questions for Carrie? Well, we have the motion before you, that noting it's for noting that the report of the General Manager, Planning and Development Group on the regional development statistics for April 2024 be noted by Councillor. Do we have a mover? Councillor Edwina, seconded by Councillor Shine. All those in favour? Motion is passed without dissent. Thank you, colleagues. We move to item 4, amendment of 2024-25 planning and development fees and charges, and I'll hand again over to Carrie for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Last month, you will recall, Council voted to adopt the fees and charges. However, in so doing and doing the testing that we've been required to do to put those fees and charges into the background of our software applications, we have come across a number of administrative errors. So they are itemised in the executive summary of the report. In addition to that, our economic development branch has worked very hard to do an online system for building applications. So to respond, because it's a cost recovery fee, to respond to the lesser amount of work involved in these online applications, we're recommending a reduction in the fee for online applications and a slight increase for the applications that are made in hard copy. And I'm happy to take any questions about this.
Thank you, Carrie. I appreciate the work of your team picking these up. Colleagues, are there any questions regarding this? Councillor Trevor.
Just for probably public information, what's the percentage of online applications compared to handwritten submitted applications?
My understanding is that in the last financial year, it was a very small number, less than 5, I believe, that were lodged in hard copy. The vast majority of them are in electronic format.
Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Trevor. Colleagues, are there any other questions? Excellent. So we'll put that motion that Council adopt the proposed amendments to the 2024-25 Register of Fees and Charges as per attachment 1. Can I have someone move that, please? Councillor Trevor, seconded by Mayor McDonald. All those in favour? It's passed without dissent. Thank you, colleagues. So, colleagues, we do need to move into confidential now, and that means we have to close the meeting to the public. Can I have someone move that we head into confidential to address the remaining items? Councillor Shine, Councillor James, all those in favour? Thank you very much. Moved. So, colleagues, I will wait until we are turned off. Okay. Just waiting for the IT, colleagues. We'll still need to remove Councillor Von Hoff, O'Shea and McDonald for the voting of item 1. Yeah, we do. Ready to go? Live stream. Welcome back to those watching online and to the public in the gallery. We move to item 6, confidential, and we do need to vote on these items separately. Concerning motion number 1, related to item number 1, we need Councillors Von Hoff, O'Shea and McDonald, if you could please leave the room. Colleagues, the motion is there before you that the confidential report on Planning and Environment Court Appeals and Compensation Claims for May 2024 in relation to matter number 1 be noted by Council. Moved by Councillor Edwina, seconded by Councillor Trevor. All those in favour? Carried unanimously, and I do need a division on that, so all councillors who were present voted in favour. Thank you. If I could have Councillors O'Shea and McDonald return and Councillor Farquhar removed, please. She's still removed. Colleagues, in relation to motion number 2, that the confidential report on Planning and Environment Court Appeals and Compensation Claims for May 2024 in relation to matter 2 be noted by Council. I'll just wait until that's... Just waiting until that's on the screen. Just having some technical problems. Bear with us. No, sorry. That the confidential report on Planning and Environment Court and Appeals Compensation Claims for May 2024 in relation to matter 2 be noted by Council. Can I have a mover? Moved by Councillor Carroll, seconded by Mayor McDonald. All those in favour? Motion is carried without dissent, so I need a division required that motion was carried and there was no one dissenting. So, colleagues, we move then to item 7, update on Planning and Environment Court Appeal 142 of 2024, revised items. We do need to have Councillor Von Hoff to leave, Councillor James to leave, myself stay, Councillor Melissa stay, Councillor Carroll stay, Councillor McDonald to leave, and Edwina to come back. Welcome back, Councillor Edwina. So, colleagues, I am in your hands regarding item 7, the confidential item for the update of the Court Appeal 142 of 2024. Is there a motion from the floor, please? That's generally you, Councillor Gardner. Councillor Gardner, your motion, please. Or just get it up on... We might get just... So councillor Gardner, your motion is, would you like me to read it out? That in the matter of IAM1 Priority Limited and Toowoomba Regional Council, that council refuse the revised plan as submitted and that council authorise the Chief Executive Officer to settle the matter in accordance with the officer's original recommendation to the special meeting of council in 20th of December 2023. This is moved by councillor Gardner. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Shine. Colleagues, we are allowed to go into debate should you wish to, but you can't say anything that's of a confidential nature. Is there a need to go into debate? I have the motion. It's before you. I have a mover and a seconder. All those in favour of this motion before us? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those against? 1, 2, 3. The motion is passed. So we do need to declare a division. Can I have those who are in favour of the motion, please? I have Councillor Melissa, Councillor Gary, Councillor Edwina, Councillor Trevor and Councillor Kerry in favour. Against was Councillor Tim, Councillor Carroll, Councillor Bill. Excellent. Councillors, could you invite those out of the room, including Councillor Von Hoff, back in? And I will conclude the meeting, the Planning and Development Committee meeting for this month at 11 o'clock on the dot. Thank you, colleagues, for your work this morning, and well done.
All right, councillors, welcome to the Water and Waste Committee meeting for June 2024. This meeting is open to the public and will also be live streamed. I would like to thank those of you who are in the room with us today and acknowledge everyone who's watching via council's social media channels. I acknowledge the Aboriginal parties whose songlines traverse these lands that we meet on today, the Western Waka Waka, Guyabal and Jarrawa peoples. I pay respects to their elders past, present and emerging. I'd like to acknowledge the General Manager for Water and Waste, Jake Passier, and this is his first committee meeting as General Manager, so congratulations, Jake. We're also joined by several, actually I'll move to item number 2, attendance including apologies, leave of absence and declarations of conflict of interest. There are none that have been flagged with me. If anything arises during the course of this meeting, please let me know as the Chair. We move to item number 3 on the agenda, the Cresbrook Dam Safety Upgrade Project, the full supply level management. And we're joined this morning by several visitors and staff specialists as well, who I'll acknowledge now. We've got Louisa Van Buren from SMEC, Reid Baldry from Seymour White. We've got David Dugdale, thanks David, from Council, and also other Council officers, Shane Hoffman and Jacinta Deakin. So thank you very much as well for joining us for this report. Councillors, there are confidential attachments to this report. So what I propose is that we talk about the report that's in public. If for any reason we do need to move into confidential to discuss those confidential items, then we can go through the reasons and do so. But to start with, I'll hand over to Jake to introduce this report. Thank you so much, Jake.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good morning, councillors. This report, in essence, attempts to highlight the great work that the Alliance has been doing in order to, A, complete the requirements that we have for Cresbrook Dam as part of the Cresbrook Dam Safety Upgrade Project, and in order to do that safely. Safety is everybody's responsibility, is around, and everybody's aware around this chamber, and the safety of our residents downstream, but also the workers that will be attempting to construct and complete activities, the critical activities required for this project. So the project in this report has identified or seeks to ensure that as part of this project that the level of the dam is appropriately managed so that the project can be completed in the safest manner possible. We understand as a project that this is not a decision that is made lightly by Council. We understand that myself as a long-term resident of Toowoomba Regional Council, that water is in fact a very valuable and precious resource, and it's not something that is just let go. So this decision or the recommendation that's in front of Council today is not one that I've made lightly. But as I said at the start, safety is our primary focus when we're dealing with big, large construction projects like this. And what we put forwards, I believe, is the most appropriate way in order to manage the safety of those downstream residents as well as the workers on this project. Happy to take questions, Madam Chair.
Okay, thanks very much for that, Jake. Councillors, over to you for questions. Mayor McDonald.
Thanks, Madam Chair. And you just, you should have an additional number 4 for the recommendation, hopefully if the submit information came through. Okay, so it's the addition. The only addition, councillors, is Roman numeral 4 at the bottom of those things there. So all the other information is correct. That's the only one highlighted. It goes in there, and all the other information is the same. There's no change, Wendy. So I don't know whether you want to take all the other stuff out that's in there and just leave. Just 4 becomes the yellow highlighted bit.
All right, so Mayor, you're proposing that amendment. What I might do is, before we sort of progress any further with that, I can call for a seconder now for that amendment, but there might be a fairly extensive list of questions that councillors might have before we consider that, Mayor. So, do you have questions?
No, I don't have any questions, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Just in relation to that proposed amendment, the July 2024 ordinary meeting, Jake, would that be after the proposed release would start?
Madam Chair, in consultation late last night and with the Mayor, my interpretation of this would be that the release needs, as in my report, needs to commence as soon as practically possible in order to manage the risks associated with the project. So my understanding of this is that we would come back to a report in July with options of the community to benefit from the process of the reduced supply level, but we may have commenced releasing out of our riparian and by that stage.
Okay, thank you. Questions from other councillors? Councillor Mount-Eiffel?
Okay, with the release, Jake, we are aiming to release how much per day? What level are we getting down to? This is just for general public information. They may have it or not already. And if we have an event, which we hope we don't, how do we control that whilst they're working on the dam wall?
So, thank you, Councillor, and if I may, Madam Chair, in relation to the first two parts of your question, I'll happily answer those, and I'll probably call on Reid or Louisa to answer the second part in relation to how an inflow event might be managed through the construction phase. In relation to what are we targeting, the project is targeting 115 megalitres per day. So that's the amount of water that needs to otherwise exit the dam. Now, there are two methods, or multiple methods under which water can exit the dam, one being consumption, so we pump as much water as we possibly can out of Crestbrook Dam. The other is evaporation, at the moment in current climate conditions it's not likely we're going to see excessive amounts of evaporation. And the third is through our riparian release valve, which is essentially letting the water traverse out of the valve at the dam, which allows it to then go further down through Crestbrook Creek and onwards. So they're the three ways in which we are looking to manage a full supply level. And as I said, the total combined amount that we're targeting on a daily basis average is 115 megalitres per day. As is noted in my report, this long-term average over the last 3 years for consumption by the community of Toowoomba from that bulk water supply is about 31.8 megalitres per day. That would mean that the remainder minus evaporation would need to be released, which is roughly about 84 megalitres per day. So that's in relation to the releases. If there's the questions around how much rainfall if we were to have a significant event during construction, how would that be managed? I'll hand over to probably Reid Baldry. So Reid is our construction manager at Crestbrook project. He's been doing a lot of the construction sequencing and timing and understanding how best to manage construction through this process. Thank you, Reid.
All good? Thank you. Just to cover that, so the idea of the program is to use the available float we have in the program. So there's critical works that need to be done at that lowered level. And the idea is that we have time, once it's at that lower level, to be able to recover from an event if we get it. So if we get a further event, we've got time to actually be able to draw the dam level back down to actually be able to do those critical works. So it doesn't affect the program.
Thank you. And with the releases that are released from the dam, obviously that all flows back down to Ivanhoe area, into that area. The water we lose, will we get it back if we need it? At what cost? Or what's the arrangement there?
As it stands today, councillors, Toowoomba Regional Council has an existing commercial arrangement for access up to 10,000 megalitres per annum from the Ivanhoe Dam, in which we would turn on the Ivanhoe pump station and pump water if council wishes to see the water that was released replenished. we have an existing commercial arrangements with SEQ right now that we could activate. We're also having some conversations with SEQ Water about modifications to those potential arrangements in lieu of if we can demonstrate and provide additional information to SEC Water to show that our water, some of the water that we would be releasing may get to Ivanhoe Dam. But there are a number of irrigators and other users along that river system who, rightly so, have access to water as and when it is available through that system. So, as I said, Council has an existing arrangement with SEQ Water to transmit up to or take up to 10,000 megalitres per annum. We can increase that volume if Council wishes. Up to 13,000 megalitres per annum is the most the pumps are capable of producing. And again, that's as proposed in that report. That's at this point in time is, in my opinion, viewed as a future decision available to Council as and when the reduced full supply level provisions are reviewed and either the project's completed or are reviewed up to, say, 95%, which is what's currently proposed. So that's a future decision for Council as to whether they wish to replace that water. But as we know, it can rain, and based on some of the conversations we've had, long-term projections, we are looking for an average to wetter than average projection over the next 2 to 3 years.
Thanks, Jake.
Jake, on Councillor Manteiffel's point, can we make it public how much that cost to ratepayers would be?
What I can say, I think, in the public forum, Madam Chair, is that the project has allocated as part of its $266.2 million budget, $8 million to replace an amount of water. We've estimated that $8 million will cover the amount that we estimate to be released. But again, it depends on the future decision by Council as to how much it wishes to replace, or if it needs to replace any water at all, depending on projected climate conditions at the time that decision needs to be made. So I think that can be in the public space.
Thank you. And those conversations with SEC Water about the potential of the commercial arrangements being altered, given the unique situation that we're in, the possibility of waiving credit, any and all of the above, how long do you think that those conversations would need before we'd have a concrete answer?
At this stage, Madam Chair, I've had some very preliminary conversations with some very senior staff with SEQ Water, and their response back to me has been that they will need some more information before they can understand what our position is, and predominantly about how much water may or may not enter into Ivanhoe Dam. So until we have been releasing and considered and continuing to release for that period of time, I think it would be unlikely to be a conversation that could happen over a month. It would be something that would be a 6 to 12 month conversation. But as I have indicated, there is a preliminary decision to be made as to whether Council needs to or wishes to replace that water. And SEC Water has certainly been open to those conversations happening. They haven't said absolutely not. They are very much aware, as a bulk water service provider, of our unique situation, and are happy to have productive dialogue in and around those things. But we will need to demonstrate that the water that we may or may not be releasing is making its way to Ivanhoe.
Okay, thank you, Jake. I've got Councillor O'Shea and then Councillor Carl. Councillor O'Shea.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Chair. Thanks, Jake. Look, I agree in principle with sort of where we're heading with the addition of this D, but just a couple of questions around it, probably with yourself, Jake, or even it might be Anne-Marie through financially. But the first question I have around it is just so a report coming in July 2024, so the timing of that, and in terms of where we are with budgets and things like that, because I assume if there's some form of community benefit, that there is a financial implication potentially that could sit with that. So one, sort of how that sort of sits from a timing point of view, and two, I suppose, because I know we've all probably put our minds to this a little bit in a way, that D is extremely broad. From an officer point of view, would you need more of a targeted, like to do, for example, a assessment and modelling of potential incentives for whatever it may end up?
If I may, Madam Chair, thank you for the question, Councillor O'Shea. I think from my perspective, having a broad remit from Council does give us quite a broad opportunity to seek all options. I would need to defer to my colleagues, so Anne-Marie or Shane Morris, who are in the room, as to the financial implications, hence why the need to have a discussion with our team to understand that, water is a significant revenue source to council, and there are some financial considerations that need to be made, hence why the need to take some time to consider a few different options, work with my colleagues in finance, and ensure that we provide council with reasonable options to the community that will take in the fullness of all of those issues rather than just one or two. And I think, in summary, narrowing the focus might take options that may otherwise be off the table. So I think from a councillor perspective and a community perspective, that you keep it quite broad. That may mean that there are many different options that we can bring to the table, and council may wish to pick one, two or multiples of in order to achieve the required outcome.
Thanks, Jake. Councillor O'Shea, I think Anne-Marie would like to add something if that's helpful. Anne-Marie?
Good morning, councillors. Yes, we have been discussing this with the water team. Councillors, you would note you may recall from last month, water consumption is tracking above budget this year. So if there was an opportunity to levy a rebate in the current financial year to offset that current over budget amount, that could be favourable. But I agree with GM Jake that there's many different options we can look at. We have previously provided rebates across the spectrum. Smart water meters provides us with an opportunity to target, monitor and manage that, but there are several different ways this can be done.
Okay, thanks, GM Anne-Marie. Councillor O'Shea?
Thanks, Madam Chair. Thank you for that information. I suppose that's why I really wanted to understand, I suppose, timing-wise as well, and I understand from a budgetary point of view. So what or when would be the appropriate environment if councillors had a set mind of a few certain groups in terms of that we think would fit into this consideration? Would that be better to be kept for another day, is what I'm asking? And that might be through yourself, Madam Chair, I'm not sure.
I'll add, thank you, Councillor Shea. I'll probably again defer to my colleague Anne-Marie in relation to the financial proponents, but I know Council does have a special meeting planned prior to this. Perhaps if there are some immediate relief, as GM Anne-Marie indicated, that could occur this financial year, that Council may wish to make a decision at that forum. There would be an opportunity at that special meeting if I would just again defer to my colleague as to whether or not that's the timing's appropriate. But again, it's an early indication at this stage.
So thanks for that, GM Jake. So GM Anne-Marie, I guess the question is it better from a finance perspective if we articulate now particular groups who we think might be the focus of council, or would you think that it's more beneficial to wait until that special meeting where we discuss?
I think it's better to look at all options rather than make a decision on the go like this. And we can certainly work with Jake and provide the financial implications of those different decisions. The only one for consideration, if we do something in the current financial year, we can offset that 1.2 million that was reported last month and can be reported this year. So that would involve applying a rebate to the rate notices now for relevant parties. But I think there's such a broad variety of things that we can do in this space. I think it would be better to make a more informed decision, bring all the options to councillors.
Okay, thanks, Chair.
Sorry, one more if I may,
Please.
Matt. Yep. So I'll mull on that. And I suppose any other question I had or consideration was, and Deputy Mayor, you've sort of mentioned this a few times, is around that advocacy piece, around that arrangement, and should we formalise that as a part of this particular motion? Because I think it's an important message to the public that I know we are going to anyway, but that we are going to continue to advocate around just a thought, because I think, the words that yourself, the Mayor, Jacob sort of said are pretty important ones. We understand the magnitude of this, so maybe that's a consideration as well. I don't know, if it needs it or not, because it's going to happen. But just in terms of making the public well aware, look, this is sort of where we sit, and this is what we're going to be in there on behalf of our community fighting for, to try and get and press our case and advocate for why we think that, there could be some considerations.
Okay, thanks, Councillor O'Shea. I'll leave that for now in case there's words that do materialise over the rest of this conversation. I've got Councillor Carl, Councillor Farquhar, Councillor McMahon.
Thanks, Chair. Actually, it was along the same lines of Councillor James' questioning there. I do hope we could have an information session where we could put, or even a workshop. It's a pretty important topic. Not pretty, very important topic. And the basis of my question was going to be, should we, and the wording's important here on D, as suggested by Councillor Jeff, providing options for consideration. Jake, are we locking ourselves into an expectation? Because the reason why I ask this is we pump every litre of water up the hill that we use. So we're paying for that already. We've paid to pump some of the water from Wivenhoe already. So in fact, some of the best options may not be ultimately favourable, but they might be the most economical in the entirety of the project and holistic costings around how we approach this. So that's some of the considerations, obviously. So I'm just wondering whether we would possibly look at or consider options. Providing options, yeah. Is there an expectation around locking us into some positive outcomes there with options? There may well be. I don't know. Maybe I'm just worried about nothing, but considering we've already paid for the water, then we pay to pump it and treat it, and then we deliver it at a reduced rate, it's foregone revenue. And it's not just about that foregone amount, it's about what it's already cost us as a reoccurring expenditure, or operational cost. So they're all the things that I'm sort of considering. So is there I agree with the sentiment. We absolutely do need to look at this, but we need to look at it carefully and in a measured way, that in the holistic framework of the project and beyond the life of the project, because we know that this will make a dent in our budgets for some years to come.
Well, Councillor Carl, we don't have a seconder yet for the proposed amendment that Councillor McDonald put forward. What I might do is leave your comments in Councillor McDonald's mind for now, see where a couple more questions go, and then we can come back to the actual wording of the motion as well. Any further questions, Councillor? No? Okay, thank you. I've got Councillor Farquhar, Councillor McMahon and Councillor Shine.
Thank you, Chair. Moving away from that sort of side of it, I'm looking at not only have we got our ratepayers who are going to be affected, but there's also those downstream. So looking at attachment 4, and I note that it's confidential, so I won't go into too much detail, but have the landowners been consulted yet?
Through you, Madam Chair. Councillor Farquhar, no, they have not. And the reason for that is that there are three options that were considered in this report. It would be premature to have engagement with those landowners should council make an alternate recommendation or resolution at the outcome of this report. Those landowners have been consulted around the project, so there is an awareness of those landowners around the project, but in relation to impacts associated with or outcomes associated with release of water potentially through the riparian, that consultation has not happened, and it is proposed that between the period that council makes this decision and before releases can commence, that a process of consultation has to occur under the legislation to inform those affected landowners of the potential impacts that they may experience.
Okay, thank you. And one more question, if I may. With looking at the dam level dropping to that 70%, over time, how often has it sat around that level, above or below, just to put it into context?
Thank you, Councillor Farquhar. And in relation to, I can't tell you how often we've been at or below 70%, but what I can provide at this point in time is that the average dam level over the last 20 years, so from 2004 to today, at Crestbrook seen an average of about 51.55%, with a total combined of all our dams of, again, 51.55%. As councillors and the community, I'm sure that it is aware, Crestbrook, our dam tends to have periods of intense rainfall over a short duration before then a considerable time where we have lower than average rainfall where our dam level tends to fall. So we do experience a fill event followed by then a decline, then followed by another fill event, and that cycle tends to average every sort of where between 7 to 10 years. We do and did experience after the post-2011 event that councillors or the community may be aware of, that we had a spill event in 2011, and that was followed up again by another spill event in 2013. So it is, it is all climate dependent, but our historical average for our dams is around that 51.5%.
Thank you, Jake.
Thanks. Councillor McMahon and then Councillor Shine.
Thanks, Chair. Look, I suppose I welcome the conversation around Part D of community benefit, but it's not overly the elephant in the room that I want to talk about. The elephant in the room is the fact that I know what registered professional engineers are saying, but I'm not one of them. I'm a community representative tasked with making a decision to tip 84 to 70, 15% of our dam down the hill. And the money is one thing, the 200 to 300 mil, you can make money, you can't make water, and we're tasked with tipping it down the hill. I suppose, you've said this many times, Jake, when did council first hear about this dam wall upgrade that we needed?
So council has been aware of changes in relation to the regulations around dam safety as early as 2003, 2004. The regulation has changed over that period of time. So the regulator initially went from a defined requirement, so said you have to meet a standards-based approach, and has softened that approach due to industries and engineers taking a risk-based approach, which is where we are now, which is a demonstration of as low as reasonably practicable, rather than a standards-based approach. Now, standard-based approach for this dam, our current solution is widening the spillway by 15 metres and putting 2.5 metres on top. A standard-based approach would be widening the spillway by 60 metres and then another 3 to 4 metres on top. So it's quite an extreme circumstance, and the engineering feasibility of that standard-based approach is incredibly questionable based on our dam and the circumstances surrounding our dam. But council has been aware of the requirements for this project, or for the changes in the requirements for dams since, as I said, the 2003, 2004.
Yeah, and that's a bitter pill to swallow. And I don't think you should be guilty of my anger, because you're the officer who wasn't here then. You're presenting the report and you're doing a fine job at it. But I've been around this table since 2020. This was given to us in about 2022, from my memory, as a looming disaster. And it's been on our books since 2003. Like, I've had a graph presented to me of the dam levels in 2006, 7, 8, 9, when we were sitting at 9%, not wanting to do with ourselves. From 2016 to 2022, we were well under 70% for 6 years in a row, right? And really, we are being forced to make a horrible decision because the council lacked foresight. And I don't know whether that was officers, councillors, or anyone around the table, but we are making a decision now that because people lacked foresight, and I can't reconcile that in my brain. I really struggle with the task ahead. Regardless of what we have to do, regardless of deadlines, we've still got to make the decision. Perhaps silver lining, there isn't one, but my only perhaps reconciling in my brain is if I look at a graph of water held in Crestbrook over the last 20 years. In 2022, we had a significant rainfall event, and in my reading of that graph, the water went to about 115%, and we very quickly and very suddenly released 11 to 15% of dam capacity down the hill. Does that sound like an accurate assumption?
Yes, Councillor, you are correct, but remembering that our dam has an ungated spillway. So we have a spillway channel under which, once the dam level gets above 100%, that any water above that is allowed to freely flow out. Hence why the sudden decrease from 115% down to 100% is because anything above 100%, our dam, the cup floweth over as such.
Yeah, thanks for that, Jake. My last question for now is that amount in 2022 where 13 to 14% floweth over, would that be a similar amount that we're releasing now, getting it from 84 to 70%?
It would be a similar volume. However, the rate under which the release would occur would be much lower. So we're talking, once our spillway goes over, we can achieve cubic metres, so kilolitres of water a second can go over our dam in an event. We're talking about a controlled release through a 600 mil pipe that averages, as I said, about 84 megalitres a day. So 84 million litres a day. If we're talking kilolitres a second, we could do the same volume in a couple of hours that we could do across a day. So it's a much lower flow rate, and it's controlled. So if we do see effects downstream or adverse effects downstream, we have the ability to reduce that, take action and appropriate action to ensure that we're minimising our impacts downstream.
Thank you. No further questions for now, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Shine, and then I've got Councillor Carl again.
Thanks, Chair. Just in relation to what Councillor Tim has raised in relation to the timing of receipt of notice of the requirement for the dam. As I understand it, the original requirement was to have it done by 2015, and an approach was made by the council to the then Newman government for a request either not to have to do it at all, which was rejected by the department, as I understood, or alternatively an extension for another 10 years, which brings it up to 2025. Is that correct, to your knowledge?
To my knowledge, Councillor Shine, that is correct, that the regulator modified the approach at Council's request to provide additional time to have this project completed.
Thank you. Councillor Edwina raised concerns about the release and the effect on downstream people. Again, it's referred to in attachment 1, and if it's confidential, don't answer it, and we'll leave it at that. But I just want to clarify how the release will work. Will it be a 24-hour-a-day type thing for the full length from the, I think, 1st of July 24 to the 4th of November? I think that's what the attachment says. Would that be correct?
So the intention here, Councillor Shine, and as the report has sort of highlighted, that since that presentation information session to Council was provided, the The project had assumed that we'd be able to achieve about 100 megalitres per day release out of that riparian. That's what those original figures were proposed on. And since that report, we've conducted some actual assessments and found we can only do 84 megalitres per day. What we would be proposing is a consistent release over that period of time, and it would be modified on a daily, weekly basis to achieve a target. As is sort of indicated in the report, as demand fluctuates, we will respond by reducing the amount of water that is released, so that at the point in time where the project needs to conduct those critical works, that is the point we reach 70%. We don't reach 70% a month or two earlier than the critical works that need to be conducted. So we're not proposing to let out a drop of water more than is absolutely necessary. So we'll be taking a consistent release over 24 hours a day and modifying that flow rate through that valve to achieve our results. So as the program changes, or as inflow occurs, or other things, or demand increases, we will be modifying that, as I said, to target that 115 megalitres per day to get us to that earliest start time possible. But as that start time might change due to factors within the project, we'll be modifying our release to ensure that at that day that critical work needs to start, we've achieved 70%. We're not there 6 months earlier watching the dam level fall further while the project is trying to deliver those critical works. So hopefully that answers your question, Councillor Sean.
Yes, but particularly in relation to the persons below the dam, at that rate that you mentioned, and I think the report mentions a little bit different estimate, but say 115, I think you're talking about. From experience, does that have any adverse effects on the crossings or on the operation of irrigation pumps of farmers, or any other way in the past? Does it have any adverse effect to your knowledge?
Thank you, Councillor Schrein, for the question. To my knowledge, we haven't released this amount of water through our riparian release since the construction of the dam. We certainly have seen flows a lot higher through that system as a result of flood events, but to say that we've released riparian release at this rate is not something that we have completed, as I said, through the history of the dam. So we have completed some modelling at a higher rate than what we're proposing to produce, which gives us some indication, but as part of the project we'll be monitoring that and working with those residents that may be affected downstream to either put in place control measures, so whether that's roads that may otherwise have been inundated that weren't before, that where access is required, that we'll be working with those affected residents to ensure that their amenity is kept to a minimum, or the impact on their amenity is kept to a minimum.
No, that's reassuring that there will be good consultation, because this is over a 4-month period, which is fairly significant, particularly to the farmers in their operation. And as you said, it hasn't been tried before, so it will have to be, no doubt, treated fairly carefully at the early stages of it.
Absolutely, Councillor Sean, and that's, I guess, why the project is conscious that commencing these activities as soon as possible gives us the greatest chance of balancing all of those components, as well as achieving a period of time that's critical for the project to achieve those critical works as soon as possible.
Just finally, is there a possibility of, well, this is proposed, I think, to start that release this year, isn't it, 1st of July, so it's only a couple of weeks away, so there's not much point. My question was, is it possible to start releasing it earlier, but there's not really that time available.
At this stage, Councillor Shine, the time frame is driven by our stakeholder consultation process. Once a decision is made, as I've sort of outlined in that report, there's a requirement for a period of stakeholder consultation. We need to conduct that before we can commence releasing.
Thanks, Councillor. I've got Councillor Carl and Councillor Manteifel.
Yeah, just a comment, if I may, Chair, and I'll probably not even sure whether I should make the comment, but think, with some remarks that were made about the history of the dam wall upgrade. Thank you so much, Councillor Kerry, for your factual and balanced view of how we've arrived at where we are now. Based on collective advice from technical experts and the individuals around the table at the time over many years, and other agents that weighed in on this history of where we are now, such as advocacy and funding and timing and lobbying for funding assistance for this, as we continue to do now, and advice at the time of whether it was in a capital works program or not. That's all a balanced history. I feel it needs to be said, based on some rudimentary remarks before, that were wholly, in my humble experience, around research. You never ever rely on cold hard data. That's been my humble experience. There are a number of other agents that weigh in on the collective journey that we're in here now. We're all in the boat together. So, as I said, comments, Chair, and I think from a balanced perspective, they need to be made. Rudimentary otherwise, bordering on disrespectful.
Councillor, we'll try and keep it just to questions if you do have a question. If not, I'll move to Councillor Manteifel.
Okay, this question's probably for GM Anne-Marie. The general consensus in ratepayers' residents is, why didn't council save for this event? I know, for this reconstruction. I know we can afford it because I've seen the figures, but why are we just leaving it till now? And I believe GM Anne-Marie answered that question quite a few weeks ago quite well, but I'll hand over to you just to give a general consensus of why we weren't putting money aside for this event.
Thanks, Councillor. GM Anne-Marie, thank you.
We, Council, have had many priority projects over the last number of years, including water treatment at Mount Kynoch, flood recovery works, so it's all about capacity and affordability. What we have done is ensure that we are in a sustainable situation, and that councillors had a presentation last week by Queensland Treasury Corporation, and it's quite clear that we have positioned ourselves very well to deliver this project.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you. Any other councillors have questions? If not, Jake, I have a few. The first I want to ask about is risk, and to clarify that the risk at the moment is going from a risk of a catastrophic failure of that dam wall is at 1 in 8,000 years, and these upgrades will take the risk of a failure to 1 in 800,000 years. Is that correct?
Rather than attempting to take those big numbers myself, Madam Chair, I'd hand over to our design manager, Louisa Van Buren, who's well and truly across the detail in relation to risk.
Okay, thank you, Louisa.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Yes, the numbers that you are quoting is correct. It's the current risk is approximately 1 in 9,000, I think, and then with the upgrade, it will be closer to 1 in 850,000. Sorry? If we were to design it today and we followed the standard-based approach, the requirement would be 1 in 3.2 million.
Sorry, can you just say that again?
If we followed a standard-based approach, what Jake was referring to earlier, the 65 metre wide spillway,
yes.
That recurrence interval would need to be 1 in 3.2 million.
Years?
Yes.
Okay.
So I think for the chamber, that 1 in 3.2 million would be if we were to build the dam today and required to follow all of the right approaches and the requirements, that we would need to build our risk tolerance for our dam to be in one in 3.2 million. That's what we would be faced with today if we were to construct Crestbrook Dam.
Okay. Thank you, Jake. The business case that council has been working very hard on, spending a lot of money on, to advocate for the funding from the state and the federal governments. Do we have an ETA on that, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you very much for the question. In relation to the business case, we have have been working very hard with some very positive advice from our colleagues in the department. As the department has said, we're working closely. They're assisting and ensuring that we are developing an appropriate business case that looks to best align with the department's needs in order to make an informed decision in a relatively short length of time. At this stage, the business case is anticipated to be finalised by the 30th of this month, and that it'll then be a discussion with the Mayor and Deputy Mayor, yourself, Madam Chair, as to how best to present that to the state government. So we're on track to complete that piece of work, and it's ably chaired. We have a governance group that chairs that, and it's chaired by our General Manager F and Finance and Business Services over there, Anne-Marie, and we're on track to deliver that.
Okay, so basically the same day that we're proposing to start releasing water from Cresbrook, that business case is in hand.
The business case is in hand. The dates are
Yeah.
coincidental,
Yeah.
But the business case is in hand and on track. We have a preliminary draft at the moment that is being is circulated. It's in 3 chapters. We have the final chapter that's about to be circulated for internal review and draft, as I said, with an anticipated date of completion or finalisation being the 30th of June this year.
Okay, thank you. And finally, but in my opinion, certainly not last, but certainly not least, I want to talk about water restrictions. So, Jake, our community's on water restrictions currently, low-level water restrictions. So my question is, how many people are on water restrictions, and would they stay on water restrictions while we're releasing the water from Cresbrook? And if the answer to that is yes, why would that be?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll do my best to answer this question, but I need support from my Manager of Water Operations, Matt Torr. Essentially, low-level restrictions is the lowest level of restrictions that our community can be on under our current restrictions policy. So that's a target 200 litres per person per day is the lowest we can go. As such, there are other parts of our community that are on higher level restrictions, but those sections of our community aren't connected to the bulk water supply scheme. So, and they are on restrictions for other reasons, in particular the availability of, say, bore water or security of bore water in their particular area. So it is not proposed at this stage, and one of those considerations that are in item 4 would be to modify our restriction schedule if there was to be an alternate target. However, I would preface the conversation around the most amount of water that Crestbrook that we can extract due to the size of the pumping infrastructure out of Crestbrook is 44 megalitres per day. When we exceed that 44 megalitres per day, which we do and will in and around October, November, when our community's average through the bulk water supply will go to somewhere around the 55 to 57 megalitres per day, the extra water does come from other sources like Perseverance and Kubi Dam. Now, those water sources, unlike Crestbrook, don't have the Wivenhoe pipeline for which we can replace the water that we use. So it's a very balancing act around ensuring that while we're conducting this full supply level management activity, that we are targeting 44 megalitres per day out of the bulk water supply system and not exceeding, because if we were to exceed, that would mean that our other water storages like Perseverance and Kubi would be drawn down faster, meaning that we were likely to be put in a situation where our water security position it may become not as strong as it otherwise would have been during those periods of drought, which, as been discussed multiple times around this room over multiple councillors, is we're only ever one day away from our next drought. And so it's a very, as I said at the start, water security is a very important topic for me. It's not something that we just flippantly throw around, but the primary focus for this project is, above all, is making sure that our workforce is safe and our community below the dam remains safe while we conduct this construction activity. But thank you.
Thanks. Matt, I might draw on you. Just can we get a number of how many people are connected to the bulk water supply and therefore on those low-level restrictions? In my mind, I have something like 60,000, but I could be way off.
Morning, councillors. I believe the number's closer to 130,000 connected to the bulk water supply, and we have around about 2,000 people who are connected to non-bulk suppliers who are currently on either medium or high-level restrictions.
So I think, Councillor, Madam Chair, your mind of 60,000 would be 60,000 connections, whether that be residential or commercial.
Okay.
There's an average of people that live at each household.
Yep.
As Matt says, about 130,000 people.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions, councillors? If there's not, I'll give us the opportunity, if anyone would like to go into confidential because there's something in one of the attachments that they wish to discuss. And if that's not of interest to councillors, then Mayor McDonald, you've proposed an amendment to the recommendation that's before us. Did you want to speak to that? Well, first of all, I'll call for a seconder to that. I've got Councillor O'Shea as a seconder. Councillor McDonald, I'll hand over to you.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I just wanted to pick up too on Councillor Carl's concern about the consideration, what have you. I'm hopeful, Councillor Carl, that where we've got providing options for consideration will allow us to consider all options that can come to us, whatever they may be. And given the passage of time and the timeliness of doing this, I think we need to rely on our officer's expert opinion to come to us in regard to that. So that's why it's there, but it's broad enough, as Jake has said. So I'm more than happy to talk to this if it needs to go into debate, but that's the reasoning behind D.
Okay, councillors, will there be a desire to go into debate on this? A question, Councillor Carl? I'm allowing, yes.
Through you to Councillor Jeff. Councillor Jeff, would you consider how the community may benefit, or can's a fairly definite?
I'm comfortable with may.
Yeah.
Happy to change that to may. Community may benefit. That's a good point.
Sorry for being a bit...
No, I'm very happy with that. Are you happy with that? I'm happy to...
There's a lot of moving parts,
James.
that's all. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's good pick up.
And Councillor O'Shea is the seconder. You're comfortable? Okay. All right, well, if there's no need for debate, and Councillor McDonald, you don't wish to speak to the motion?
Madam Chair, I guess just very quickly, I wanted to acknowledge the work of Jake and his team in regard to this. No one in our organisation, as I'm understanding of it, is someone who has the facility to look into a crystal ball and see what may happen. What we do know is that we've got a few priorities for this project, the first of which is around safety for those that are working on the project. The second is around making sure that we actually allow the appropriate management of risk, if there is, of failure. And the third of which is minimising the risk to the project schedule and budget. And we know how tight that is. We know how tight the time frame is. So they're the key reasons why I'm particularly supportive of this. And the D gives us a chance to have a look at what may be of benefit for the community. So I just want to acknowledge the work of Jake and his team, Madam Chair, if you don't mind, and very pleased with the way that we're progressing. Certainly conversations, and to give confidence to councillors and those that are tuning in, conversations continue at a political level and also at an officer level with this project. the government understand this is the first of 13 of these that they will be confronted with, plus their own. This is a big task as a state, and I have to say it's a big task as a nation. And so therefore we are, the eyes are on us, definitely on us, and I know Jake and his team feel that from the Dam Safety Regulator. I feel it when I'm talking with ministers, and I'm sure Jake and his team feel that when they're talking with the department. So with those words, Madam Chair, I'm happy to move the recommendation.
Okay, thank you, councillors. I will read it out just for the benefit of anybody who's online and can't see the visual. So we've got a motion there are 4 parts to the motion. The mover of Councillor McDonald and the seconder of Councillor O'Shea. The council note and accept the advice of the registered professional engineers set out in this report, advising there is an unacceptable risk of a failure of the dam if it operates at the full supply level as stated in the resource operations licence for the dam during the construction of the safety improvement project. Also, that council delegate to the Chief Executive Officer the power under section 399B(2) of the Water Supply Safety and Reliability Act 2008 to reduce the supply level of the dam to the reduced full supply level as stated in the advice of the registered professional engineers. That council receive a monthly update advising of the methodology being used to achieve the reduced full supply and any material risks associated with the ongoing management of the reduced full supply level during the period of the Cresbrook Dam Safety Improvement Project. And lastly, that council receive a further report at the July 2024 ordinary meeting, providing options for consideration on how the community may benefit through the process of achieving the reduced full supply level. We have a mover, a seconder. There has Councillor Taylor.
Thank you. If I might have a question, is it necessary to put registered professional engineer of Queensland? It is a higher qualification.
So if we just go up to the very first,
it's mentioned twice there. Registered professional engineers, and it's mentioned down further, it is a higher qualification in Queensland.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you to you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Councillor Taylor, for the question. In relation to this, because this decision notice is happening in Queensland, they are by native naturally registered professional engineers in instilling that they are registered within Queensland. So we've had legal advice around this process, and what has come back is what's there is appropriate. The respectful engineers is contained in the confidential advice indicates that there has been 2 technical reviews and a legal review in and around this advice being proposed. So there's no need, in my opinion, councillors, to have in Queensland, as this decision is being made relating to a project in Queensland.
Okay, thank you for that, General Manager. Councillor Taylor, are you comfortable with that? Okay, well, there is the opportunity, if you wish to, at this stage, make an amendment.
I certainly have no problems with putting that in there, Councillor Carroll, if you'd like that put in there.
Of Queensland?
That's fine. You're up.
Councillor O'Shea as a seconder is comfortable with that, and Councillor Jake, it's a demotion. We'd add their registered professional engineers in A, Queensland, and then in B, there's also the need to put it after. Thank you. Thank you, and Councillor McDonald, and gosh, that was fast. Councillor McDonald and Councillor O'Shea as a mover and seconder, you're fine? Okay. Councillor Edwina.
Sorry, Chair, just what if, I know we've got a skills shortage here in Queensland at the moment and someone working on the project is from New South Wales? They still have to be registered in Queensland?
Councillor...
Just devil's advocate here.
Thank you, Councillor, for that question. General Manager Jake?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Essentially, the legislation under the Queensland Professional Engineers Act says that if you are, irrespective of where your host state is, if you are performing or providing services of an engineer to the state of Queensland, that you must be registered in Queensland. So they will need to obtain a certification called the Registered Professional Engineer Queensland.
Okay, you're comfortable, Councillor? Yeah, no, thank you. I think all of this is fine, given the seriousness of the decision that we're making. So, okay, back again. We've read the motion, we've got to move it, we've got to second it, we've called for debate, that's been declined. I'll go to the vote. All in favour? That motion is carried. Councillors, that brings an end to the Water and Waste Committee meeting, and I second the Mayor's comments to General Manager Jake. It's a big one to start for you in this role, and the work that's gone into it is significant, and the seriousness of it is evident. So, and I'd also like to thank the guests and the staff members who have also been here today to answer any of our questions. Your time we know is valuable and we appreciate it. So thank you very much. Thank you also, David. Thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I close the meeting, 12:03.
Pero, so, welcome, councillors, to the Infrastructure Committee meeting. I would like to pay respects to elders past, present and emerging, and acknowledge the Jarowa and Guyabal people in their connection to the land on which we are on today. So, as there are no items for today's committee, I would propose that it's open, and now, do I need a mover to close? Closed meeting, councillors, and we'll adjourn for lunch, and that's it. We won't adjourn. The committee meeting's finished for today. Thank you, councillors.
Councillors, I just want to have just a moment just with us.